Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news tonight on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Supreme Court declares right to privacy a fundamental right. 9-judge Constitution bench headed by Chief Justice J.S. Keher rules that right to privacy is protected under Article 21 of the Constitution. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Nepalese Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deoba hold summit-level meeting in Delhi. 8 agreements signed between two countries in the fields of trade, security, defence and natural disasters. Over 15,000 paramilitary personnel deployed ahead of the final verdict in a sexual exploitation case against Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh case tomorrow. Internet and data services in Punjab, Haryana and Chandigarh suspended for 3 days. And northern Bihar continues to bear the brunt of flood fury. Death toll rises up to 376. Nearly 8 crore people affected. Floodwaters leave trail of destruction in Muzaffarpur, Darbhanga, Samastipur and Gopalganj districts. Well, India and Nepal relations took a new leap, with both countries vowing to address each other's concerns. Prime Minister of Nepal, Sher Bahadur Deoba, is on a 5-day state visit to India since Wednesday to have a detailed discussion on issues challenging the two nations, especially in view of the Chinese OBOR project. Deoba is accompanied by a large official delegation as well as his wife Arzu Deoba. India accorded him high honour by ensuring his stay at Rashtrapati Bhavan.
On Thursday, Nepalese Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deoba had a summit-level meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Delhi. Both leaders had extensive talks on issues ranging from trade, security and defence, as well as natural disasters. 8 agreements were signed between the two countries in presence of both the PMs. The agreements are relating to speeding up of reconstruction efforts in Nepal and also cooperation in chartered accountants institutions and narcotics control. Special reference was also made to security and defense issues.
मुझे खुशी है कि आज जिन 8 MOUs पर हस्ताक्षर किए गए हैं, उनमें से 4 भूकंप के बाद पुनर्निर्माण कार्यों के लिए भारत की तरफ से किए गए $1 बिलियन की सहायता के वायदे और आगे बढ़ाएंगे। रक्षा क्षेत्र और सुरक्षा में सहयोग हमारी पार्टनरशिप का बहुत महत्वपूर्ण पहलू है। हमारे सुरक्षा हित भी एक दूसरे पर निर्भर हैं और एक दूसरे से जुड़े हुए हैं।
There are tremendous opportunities in Nepal-India relation, enormous potential in economic field, particularly in water resources, trade and investment. With the end of long political transition, Nepali people stand threshold of a new era of progress and prosperity.
Cooperation in infrastructure development was another topic of discussion between the two leaders. They dwelt upon the hurdles in speedy fulfillment of Nepal's needs, and Prime Minister Modi assured him of timely fulfillment of India-sponsored projects. Both leaders also assured that DPR on the much-awaited Pancheshwar projects would be finalized soon for hydroelectricity, which will be a win-win situation for both countries.
पहले से चल रहे हाइड्रो पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स को तय समय सीमा में पूरा करने के लिए अपने प्रयास हम और बढ़ाएंगे। अब मुझे खुशी है कि जब देवबा जी ने मुझे बताया कि अरुण 3 के लिए नेपाल में भूमि का मामला सुलझा लिया गया है, मैं देवबा जी का धन्यवाद करता हूं कि उसके शिलान्यास के लिए उन्होंने मुझे नेपाल का निमंत्रण दिया है।
I appreciated Prime Minister Modi's neighborhood first policy and approach of the Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. We are eager to see that these encouraging policy announcements are translated into concrete and development activities.
Both Prime Ministers also stressed on connectivity as a major area of cooperation. With Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari being present during the delegation-level meeting, decisions were taken to expedite pending road projects and decide about the new roads that can connect not only India and Nepal through the borders, but also the inner roads of Nepal. China has already established itself in Nepal with its One Belt, One Road project. While India is not in competition, it does want to ensure that Nepal does not rely only on China for similar projects.
नेपाल के लोगों को और नेपाल की सरकार की प्राथमिकताओं को ध्यान में रखते हुए नेपाल के विकास में अपनी साझेदारी बढ़ाने के लिए भारत पूरी तरह प्रतिबद्ध है। इस उद्देश्य की प्राप्ति के लिए हम कई ऐसे इकोनॉमिक, कनेक्टिविटी और डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स पर सहमत हुए हैं जो नेपाल की नेशनल प्रायोरिटी हैं।
2 transmission lines from Raxaul to Parvanipur and Kotaya to Kushaha from India to Nepal, each of 132 megawatts, were also launched today. Earlier on Thursday, the Nepal Prime Minister and his wife were given a ceremonial reception at the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan. He met President Kovind and Vice President Naidu and paid respects to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat. During the next leg of his visit, he will be travelling to Hyderabad and Gaya.
Due to open border between the two countries, India has serious security concerns and Nepal has serious need of infrastructure development. It is heartening to hear that both Prime Ministers have reassured one another in their hearts. Rest will be done by people of both the countries to increase confidence between the two. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha Television with camera person Junaid in Delhi.
Well, in the other big news of the day, the Supreme Court declared right to privacy a fundamental right under the Constitution. A 9-judge Constitution bench headed by Chief Justice J.S. Keher ruled that right to privacy is protected intrinsically as part of rights guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution.
In a landmark judgment, a 9-judge Constitution bench headed by Chief Justice J.S. Keher unanimously declared that right to privacy was a fundamental right under the Constitution. The Supreme Court ruling said that right to privacy is an intrinsic part of right to life and personal liberty under Article 21, an entire Part 3 of the Constitution. The bench was hearing a batch of petitions challenging the centre's move to make Aadhaar mandatory for availing the benefits of social welfare schemes.
All that this 9-judge bench has held is that this is a fundamental right under Article 21 and therefore any law which is made to restrict this fundamental right will have to be examined on the touchstone of Article 21, which means that the court will have to see whether that law imposes reasonable restrictions on your fundamental right to privacy or not.
While the centre had argued that right to privacy is not a fundamental right, the petitioners contended that when a citizen gives his biometrics to the government and it is used by commercial organizations, it is a breach of privacy. The apex court said the validity of sharing information for Aadhaar card will be decided by a 5-judge bench, which has been hearing the petition since 2015.
The government welcomes this judgment. यूपीए ने आधार लाया था बिना किसी कानून के और पूरी चर्चा इस बात से हुई थी कि हाउ कुड द गवर्नमेंट कलेक्ट डेटा और इंसिस्ट अपॉन बायोमेट्रिक्स विदाउट एनी लेजिस्लेटिव सैंक्शन। तो यूपीए सरकार के काम करने का तरीका था। फिर हमने एक कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव बिल लाया नोन एज द आधार एक्ट।
The judgment also concluded that privacy includes, at its core, the preservation of personal intimacies and that sexual orientation is an essential attribute of privacy. It said that privacy and protection of sexual orientation lie at the core of the fundamental rights under Articles 14, 15 and 21 of the Constitution.
The judgment delivered today is a landmark verdict and will rank among the most important judgments delivered by the Supreme Court. Privacy is at the core of personal liberty. In fact, privacy is an inalienable part of life itself. By virtue of the judgment of the Supreme Court, Article 21 has acquired a new magnificence.
The judgment is a blow to Aadhaar as the centre now has to convince the Supreme Court that forcing citizens to give fingerprints and their iris scan does not violate privacy. With Thursday's decision, the Supreme Court has overruled its judgments of 1954 MP Sharma case and the 1961 Khadak Singh case that right to privacy is not protected under the Constitution. Ravindra Sharan for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the Supreme Court on Thursday imposed a fine of 10 lakh rupees each on two people for filing a petition challenging the practice of recommending to the President the name of the successor by the incumbent Chief Justice of India. A two-judge bench comprising of Chief Justice J.S. Keher and Justice D.Y. Chandrachud said that imposition of exemplary cost was needed to send across a message to similarly placed people to deter them from filing such pleas. The petitioners Swami Om and Mukesh Jain had questioned the process of recommending the name of the successor by the incumbent CJI while referring to the constitutional scheme on the appointment of the CJI and the Chief Justices of the High Courts. In their plea, they said that the procedure adopted by the Supreme Court was against the spirit of the Constitution. The Apex Court asked the petitioners to deposit the fine within 1 month and said it should be sent to the Prime Minister Relief Fund, adding that the matter will be relisted if they fail to deposit the fine. Well, in some economic news now, the Reserve Bank of India will issue the first ever 200 rupees denomination banknotes on Friday. In a press release, the central bank said that the 200 rupees denomination banknotes will be issued in the Mahatma Gandhi news series bearing the signature of Governor Urjit R. Patel. The new notes will have the Sanchi Stupa motif on the reverse. The base color of the note is bright yellow. It also has other designs and geometric patterns aligning with the overall color scheme, both at the obverse and reverse. The 200 rupees banknote is expected to address liquidity issue and reduce the burden on the 100 rupees note. Well, Tamil Nadu Assembly Speaker P. Dhanpal on Thursday issued a notice to 19 MLAs seeking explanation on the plea for their disqualification. Earlier, AIADMK-led Tamil Nadu Chief Government's Whip S. Rajendran approached the Speaker to disqualify all MLAs supporting TTV Dinakaran who met Governor Vidyasagar Rao 2 days ago. The state police team reached a Windflower Resort in Puducherry where supporters of TTV Dinakaran are staying. The police said that the purpose of their visit was to check that law and order is maintained in the area. The AIDMK MLAs are put up at the resort since Tuesday to protest against the merger of the Pannir Selvam and Palaniswamy camps.
Come to make sure that there is peace around the place. There is no untoward incident taking place. There is law and order maintained.
So
that is the
have
purpose.
you received any complaint?
No, I have not received any complaint.
Meanwhile, MLAs belonging to Deputy General Secretary TTV Dinakaran demanded that Assembly Speaker P. Dhanpal be appointed as the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. The latest development comes a day after Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister K. Palaniswamy on Wednesday said unity was the need of the hour.
இனிமேலும் இது போன்ற சேனலை அவர்கள் செய்வார்களானார் கட்சியையும் இந்த சின்னத்தையும் முடக்குவதற்கு காரணமாக இருந்த ஓபிஎஸ் அணி என்கின்ற சொல்லிக் கொள்கின்ற அந்த கூட்டம் இன்று கழகத்திலே இணைந்து விட்டு நாங்கள் தான் கழகம் என்று சொன்னால் கழகத்தை தொன்று தொட்டு 1972 இருந்து கட்டி காக்கின்ற நாங்கள் யார்?
President Ramnath Kovind and Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu today greeted the nation on the auspicious occasion of Ganesha Chaturthi. In a message, the Vice President said Lord Ganesh is revered as an embodiment of wisdom, prosperity and good fortune in our country. Invoking the auspicious name of Lord Ganesha before the start of any good work and project is a common practice, he added. Extending his good wishes on the occasion, the Vice President prayed that the festival should bring peace, prosperity and harmony in our country. Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Typically, gold is very soft. To make the gold stronger, they add copper to it. and as a result 24 karat gold becomes 22 karat, 20 karat and so on and so forth. And in the process they are making it stronger, but at the same time the purity of the gold is gone. So we now developed one of my students by name Vinod, who is a faculty in SRM University. He took this up and we tried to develop these so-called grain refiners for gold, and then added these grain refiners to gold and demonstrate that 24 karat gold can be as strong as 20 karat gold without adding copper to it.
Watch Eureka with Professor B.S. Murthy, Head Department of Metallurgical and Materials Engineering, IIT Madras, Chennai, only on Rajya Sabha TV.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the flood situations remains grim in the states of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath toured the flood-hit areas of Faizabad and distributed relief and other material to the people. He also flagged relief material for flood-hit areas in the state. Floods have affected 24 districts in the state, with 89 people dead. Over 23 lakh people have been affected by the floods.
उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार ने एसडीआरएफ के अंतर्गत हर पीड़ित परिवार के लिए पर्याप्त मात्रा में खाद्यान्न और उसके उपयोग के लिए आवश्यक वस्तुएं प्रत्येक जनपद स्तर तक पहुंचाई है और जिला प्रशासन को स्पष्ट निर्देश दिए हैं कि किसी भी पीड़ित को कहीं भी कोई समस्या न आने पाए.
Well, the death toll in Bihar has risen to 367, even as 1.58 crore people remain affected by the deluge. 19 districts in the state are submerged, with Siwan being added to the list of flood-hit districts. Around 7.76 lakh people have been shifted to safer areas, while some have returned to their homes in areas where water levels are receding. 28 NDRF teams and 7 army teams are engaged in flood relief and rehabilitation work. Meanwhile, opposition RJD Congress and the CPI-ML protested in Bihar Assembly, accusing the state government of failing to provide proper relief to flood victims in the state. The Punjab and Haryana High Court on Thursday asked the centre to provide additional forces ahead of a judgment in the sexual exploitation case against Tera Sacha Sauda head Gurmeet Ram Rahim Singh. As many 150 companies of the paramilitary forces have also been deployed in both states to assist the police forces in maintaining law and order. Two major cities, Chandigarh and Panchkula, are in complete lockdown. Flag marches have been carried out by security forces in Panchkula, Sirsa, Hisar and some other places, while several hospitals are also put on alert as a precautionary measure. Apprehending violence, mobile internet services have been suspended for 72 hours in Haryana, Punjab and Chandigarh. Security forces are also keeping a close watch on social media, particularly WhatsApp groups, Facebook and Twitter, and have asked people not to spread rumours. The central government has assured all possible help to the two state governments to deal with any situation.
Sufficient हमने जो है यहाँ पे पुलिस फोर्सेस का और पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस का डिप्लॉयमेंट किया है. इसके अलावा हमने आर्मी को भी अलर्ट किया है. हमारे जो कोर सेंसिटिव एरियाज हैं उनको हमने पूरी तरह से सैनिटाइज कर रखा है. वहाँ पे किसी प्रकार की कोई भी अनऑथराइज्ड जो एंट्री है वो वहाँ पे नहीं होगी.
लोगों से हम यही अपील करेंगे शांति बनाए रखें, और उसके साथ ये मैसेज भी है शरारती तत्वों का, अगर किसी ने कोई खिलाफ जाने की कोशिश की तो उसके खिलाफ सख्त कार्रवाई की जाएगी.
Well, here's a roundup of some other news from across the country in Nationwide. Infosys today named former CEO and Aadhaar architect Nandan Nilekani as its new chairman, replacing R. Sheshayee. Ravi Venkateshan also resigned as co-chairman but will continue as an independent director. Vishal Sikka, who quit last week as CEO but was made vice chairman till his successor was appointed, also quit the board with immediate effect, the company said in a statement after its board meeting. Resident doctors at the Safdarjung Hospital in Delhi proceeded on an indefinite strike, alleging that one of their colleagues was assaulted by a woman patient. An FIR has also been filed at the Safdarjung Enclave police station in connection with the incident. The Uttar Pradesh government transferred additional Chief Secretary of Medical Education Anita Bhatnagar Jain in connection with the death of children at the state-run BRD college in Gorakhpur. As per sources, Rajneesh Dubey, Principal Secretary, would hold the additional charge of medical education. Well, moving on to some international news now. Typhoon Hato, the strongest to hit southern China in 53 years, left a trail of death and destruction in the region. Macau and Hong Kong bore the brunt of the storm that has claimed at least 16 lives and injured over 150 others. Macau remained without electricity even 24 hours after the typhoon made landfall. Macau officials said it was the strongest storm recorded in more than 50 years and had a severe impact across the city. In Hong Kong, more than 120 people were injured as the financial hub was lashed with hurricane winds and heavy rains. No casualty was reported, even as floods inundated the low-lying and coastal areas. In Guangdong, at least 8 people were killed and dozens injured. Power transmission facilities also suffered heavy losses, disrupting electricity supply to nearly 2 million households. More than 24 hours after the powerful typhoon, alerts for landslides, flooding and other geological disasters remain in place. Air services have been resumed partially in Hong Kong, though rail and road traffic remain affected due to massive flooding. Meanwhile, China issued a new advisory to its citizens travelling to India, warning them of various safety risks coming amid Beijing's continuing anger towards Delhi over the 2-month-long border standoff in Doklam. China cited train accidents, natural disasters and frequent infectious disease outbreaks in the country. This is the second such advisory issued by Beijing since the standoff, and it is stronger than the July 8th warning. The advisory asks Chinese nationals to pay attention to their personal safety and avoid unnecessary travel within the country. Travellers are told to carry personal identification information with them, obey religious customs and keep their family, colleagues and friends posted about their travel. Well, here's a roundup now of some other news from across the world in Global Buzz. Qatar restored full diplomatic relations with Iran, disregarding the demands of Arab nations. In announcing its decision, Qatar did not mention the diplomatic crisis which the Gulf Arab nations are facing since June, in which Qatar's land, sea and air routes were cut off by its neighbours over Doha's policies across the Middle East. In Rome, police clashed with refugee squatters who had occupied a small area in defiance of an eviction order. Some 100 refugees had occupied the square since Saturday, when about 800 squatters were evicted from an adjacent office building. Police said that they decided to intervene because they had information that the refugees were planning to use gas canisters and Molotov cocktails. The Lebanese army advanced on Lebanon's northeast border during their operation to dislodge Islamic State from its small enclave in the mountains. The Lebanese army have recaptured 100 square kilometers since the offensive began on Saturday, leaving just 20 square kilometers in the hands of the militants. The Syrian army and Lebanon's Shiite Hezbollah group are conducting a simultaneous but separate operation against the same pocket from inside Syria. Well, let's shift focus now and bring you up to speed with some sports news in Sports Beat. Para-athlete Devendra and hockey player Sardar Singh were selected for the Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award. Cricketer Cheteshwar Pujara, women cricketer Harmanpreet Kaur and shooter P.N. Prakash are among the 17 sportsmen or sportspersons rather who will be given the Arjuna Awards for their outstanding performance. For Dronacharya Awards, late Dr. R. Gandhi in athletics, Brij Bhushan Mohanty in boxing and P.A. Raphael in field hockey were chosen. They will receive their awards from President Ramnath Kovind at a special function at Rashtrapati Bhavan on August 29th. In the World Badminton Championships, India's #1 player Kidambi Srikanth beat Anders Antonsen 21-14, 21-18. Srikanth won the first set 21-14 and was leading the second from the beginning. The second set was neck and neck, but Srikanth was able to clinch victory and ended the second set with 21-18. Qatar will build a stadium shaped like an Arabian skull cap for the 2022 World Cup as the Gulf state moves ahead with preparations for the tournament despite a diplomatic rift with its neighbours. The tournament is the centrepiece of a strategy to project Qatar onto the global stage. Doha's Al Thumama Stadium will host 40,000 fans at a World Cup quarter-final match. Well, that's it on this newscast. Have a good night.